What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Legit Whiskey Reviews, and today I wanted to go over my top 5 bourbons for $25 and under. Now, while I was making this list and coming up with which whiskeys I was going to include, I was testing a lot of whiskeys and the ones that, I fell in love with when I first started drinking whiskeys and, stuff like that. And then I started to think about, I wanted to include whiskeys that are available to everyone and that anyone pretty much anywhere can walk into a liquor store and find. It's not something that's hard to find, so that was one of the keys. And another one was something that like I said, $25 and under, but mainly that agrees with my palate, because these are the whiskeys that I think agree with my palate, and the whiskeys that I feel like suit my palate the best. And also I have 3 whiskeys that are not runner-ups, but I just couldn't put them in my top 5 because they're great and other people probably would include them in their top 5, but for me, like I said, it's just not agreeing with my palate as much as my top 5, but they're still great whiskeys. And a lot of people would put them in their top 5. So like I said, I just wanted to include a list that is accessible to everybody, that anybody that watches this video can actually go into a liquor store and find these bottles readily available. And a lot of people might say, experienced whiskey drinkers might say, well, you missed this and you missed that. Well, like I said, these are whiskeys that are available and readily accessible for people to pick up everywhere, not just in your area or this area. So with that said, I want to start off with my first honorable mention, and that whiskey is gonna be Old Tub. This one here is coming out of the Jim Beam distillery, and it is 100 proof, so 50% ABV. And it's one of those whiskeys that, while I love and I enjoy drinking, it only retails for about $18 to $20. It has a lot of good flavors. It has a ton of peanut in there, and it's one of those whiskeys that you have to be ready for, you have to be in the mood for, because it's one of those that's gonna punch you in the mouth. It's just one of those type of whiskeys that when you're drinking it, you're drinking it. It's the best way I can describe it. But coming up with my top 5, I just felt like this one here agreed with my palate the least, but I still enjoy it and I still like having around, because when I'm in the mood for something like that, this is a whiskey that I really enjoy drinking. All right, so for my second honorable mention, this is gonna be Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. This one in my area retails for around $17 to $20 as well. Usually I can find this for around the $17 mark. This one is a little harder to find in some places, but I still felt like it's available enough that I could include it on this list. With this one, it's coming out of the Heaven Hill distillery, and obviously being bottled in bond, it's going to be 100 proof, so 50% ABV. And it's you get that Heaven Hill nuttiness in there. You get the classic bourbon flavors. It doesn't lean too much in any direction, but it's just a solid, enjoyable whiskey. But like I said before, it's just one of those whiskeys that when I was coming up with my top 5, this one just fell a little short, but it's still a great whiskey and something that you should pick up if you see it somewhere, because it is an enjoyable whiskey. All right, so finally for my final honorable mention, and this one was a little bit hard not to include in the list, but like I said, just A/B testing and just going back and forth with the couple of days before I started shooting this episode, it was just one of those whiskeys that fell a little short, but it's still another one, great whiskey. This is the Ezra Brooks 99 proof, and this one comes out of Luxco, and it's really good, and it was hard not to include it in my top 5. You get a ton of cinnamon, you get a lot of caramel, vanilla, and it's actually really spicy on the back end as well. It has a great nose. But just for me, it just fell a little bit short coming up, you know, on the top 5. But still, like the other ones, they're great whiskeys, and if you can find this, it's pretty available in most places. This one here retails for about right at the $25 mark, but another great whiskey. All right, so now we're coming up to my top 5 bourbons for $25 and under. And now some of these are right at the $25 mark, and in some places they might be a little bit over $25, but for the most part you're gonna find it right at the, you know, some of these are right around the $25 mark. So, you know, if it's more in your area, I'm sure it's not that much more. They're right around, usually around the ones that I did pick that are $25 are right at that mark in most places. So my number 5 whiskey for $25 and under is Fighting Cock. So Fighting Cock comes out of the Heaven Hill Distillery. This is 103 proof, so 51.5% ABV. And this one is a heavy hitter. This one retails in my area for $17, 103 proof. I'm not sure, it's non-age stated, I'm not sure what the age is, but you get classic bourbon flavors here. You get a good, decent finish. It's a little bit heavy on the corn sweetness side of things. I found that, you know, it has a little bit too much like corn sweetness. But for the $17 mark, you get, like I said, your classic great bourbon flavors, a little bit of that corn sweetness, and you also get a good amount of spice and a little bit of oak. It's just an overall great whiskey, especially for the $17 price. This is one of those whiskeys that's really, really hard to beat. And if you see it and it's available, it is available in most places, definitely pick it up. You won't be disappointed. You can mix this, you can, you know, drink it neat. You can do so much with this whiskey, and it'll stand up to a lot of cocktails as well. So my number 4 bourbon for $25 and under is Evan Williams Single Barrel. So Evan Williams as well comes out of the Heaven Hill Distillery. This one is 86.6 proof, so 43.3% ABV. This is a single barrel, so these usually vary in profile and what you're gonna get out of the nose and the palate, but for the most part, I've gotten a few bottles that were a little bit off profile from what I usually get, even though they are single barrels. But as far as for the most part, you're gonna get a lot of cherry, you're gonna get a good amount of oak. There's a little bit of spice, but not overly spiced or just too much spice, but there is a good amount of sweetness, a good amount. I always get a good cherry note out of here. You get your caramel, vanilla, but like I said, in the back end, you get a good amount of oak. And if you get the right bottle, it's like a sweet oak, and I really like that. My specific bottle here, they're usually 8 years old, so my bottle here was barreled in August of 2012, and it was bottled in August of 2020. So, you know, it comes in at the 8-year mark. And this one here retails in my area for around $21 to $23, give or take. So, and this is readily available in, I think, almost everywhere. And while prices may vary a little, it's usually around, you know, the $21 to $25 mark. And another great whiskey, especially, you know, for the price. All right, so my number 3 bourbon out of my top 5 bourbons for $25 and under. Now, my bottom 2 were pretty much set when I was going back and forth, but my top 3, I really had a hard time, and any of these on a certain day could be number 1 for me. But just going over it the last few days, I feel like my order changed a little bit, and I feel like it was pretty much set. But I had the hardest time with my top 3 when I was coming up with my top 5 list. So at number 3 is Knob Creek. This one comes out of the this comes out of Jim Beam. It's 100 proof, so 50% ABV. This is an older Knob Creek, because they came out with the 9-year age statement again. This one comes in right at around the $25 mark. You get a decent amount of that Jim Beam nuttiness, the peanut. You get a good finish. You get your spice. You get your good amount of oak. You get a lot of sweetness in the front, and it's just an overall amazing value, especially for the 9-year age statement. And it's another whiskey that if you see on the shelves, definitely pick it up, because you won't be disappointed. I'm a fan pretty much of any Knob Creek. They're always solid, but my favorite is the Knob Creek single barrel. It comes in at 120 proof at $40. It's an amazing value and a very, very good whiskey. All right, so number 2 on my list. This one was really hard. I had them reversed when I first started making this list, because that's my number 2 is usually my go-to, but just going back and forth, it was really close. And a lot of people will have these reversed. It's a good argument, but number 2 on my list is a classic, Wild Turkey 101. This one comes out of Wild Turkey Distillery. It's you get your classic bourbon flavors. It's a staple for anybody that has a whiskey, that has a bar. This is something you always want to keep around. You get your classic vanilla, caramel. You get a good amount of spice. You get a great finish. You get a good amount of oak. This one in my area retails for around the $18 to $19 mark. I know in some other places it's mid 20s, like $23 to $25, but like I said, $18 to $19 in my area. This is a blend of 6 to 8 year whiskeys, probably on more towards the 6-year mark, but anyways, just a great whiskey. And if you've never had this, you're really missing out. And it's something that, this was one of my first whiskeys when I started, drinking my whiskeys neat. This was one of the first ones that really captured my attention and really started me on my journey to drinking whiskey. So now, number 1 for my top 5 whiskeys for $25 and under, it's Old Forester 100. All right, so Old Forester 100, obviously 100 proof, and this is 50% ABV. This comes out of the Old Forester, Brown Foreman, I believe, owns them. And this one is just solid all around. This one comes right at the $25 mark as well. It's just an amazing whiskey. When I was going back and forth between all these whiskeys, this one just completely won it for me. Just some deep caramel, deep vanilla, dark syrupy sweetness. You get that cherry, you get banana, you get a good amount of oak, but also towards the back end you also get a decent amount of spice to balance everything out. And everyone that's been watching my reviews, that I love just a lot of sweetness in my whiskeys, but I love that balance in the back. And this one definitely comes through with the spice and the oak in the back, but just those flavors, it has the classic flavors of vanilla and caramel with the fruitiness in the front, but they're deep and dark, and you definitely can pick them out, and you definitely know they're there. And that's actually what I've been sipping on here when the episode started. Just a great whiskey, $25, 100 proof. You can't go wrong with any of these whiskeys. And just if you guys have a different opinion, or if I missed something, just leave a comment at the bottom. If you would have put something else on top, or if I left something out, just let me know. But I feel like this, for any beginning whiskey drinker, or somebody that's not sure what you're gonna like, or if you are getting a good value. You can't go wrong with any of the whiskeys I mentioned here. So if you like my content, remember to hit that like button. Remember to subscribe. You can catch me on Instagram at LegitWhiskeyReviews, and keep it legit and do it for the love of whiskey. Cheers.